Before your first hour is over, you may have already decided what kind of attention your brain will practice for the rest of the day, without even realizing it. And if you're over 60, that matters for a reason that may feel very personal. Perhaps you've walked into a room and suddenly forgotten why you went there. Maybe a familiar name takes longer to come back than it used to. Maybe some mornings you wake up feeling mentally foggy and for just a second a question enters your mind. Is this simply part of getting older or is something changing? If you've ever had that thought, stay with me. Because this video is going to give you one simple way to approach your first morning hour. A 4-part routine you can remember without writing down a single thing. Pause, notice, move, challenge. Don't think of these as 4 separate chores. Think of them as one deliberate way to begin your day. And here's what makes this routine different. The 3rd step isn't really about exercise, and the 4th step isn't really about memory. You'll understand why as we go. But everything begins with the first word, pause. So let me ask you something. What is the first thing your brain sees each morning? For many people, it isn't sunlight. It isn't the face of someone they love. It isn't even a quiet moment to become fully awake. It's a glowing screen, bad news, notifications, arguments, financial worries, messages, problems that haven't even happened yet. Before both feet have touched the floor, the mind is already somewhere else. Someone else's emergency, someone else's opinion, someone else's problem. And again, this isn't about pretending that checking your phone is somehow destroying your brain. That's not the point. The real question is simpler. How do you want to begin your day? Reacting or arriving? Reacting means the world gets your attention before you've had a chance to notice yourself. Arriving means giving yourself a brief moment to become present first. Sit up, take a breath, look around the room, let your mind catch up with your body. You don't need an hour of meditation, you don't need a complicated ritual. Even a short pause can create a small boundary between waking up and being pulled in every direction. And after 60, that pause can become useful in a way many people never consider. It gives you a chance to ask yourself one important question. How do I feel compared with my normal? Not compared with your neighbor, not compared with the person you were at 35. Compared with your normal. Maybe you usually wake up slowly and feel better after a few minutes. That's your normal. Maybe you occasionally forget a word and remember it later. That may be part of your normal experience too. The point is not to search for something wrong every morning. The point is to know yourself well enough that when something is genuinely different, you don't automatically brush it aside. Because one of the easiest ways to drift into aging on autopilot is to explain everything with the same sentence. Well, I'm just getting older. Tired? Just getting older. Forgetful? Just getting older. Less steady? Just getting older. Sometimes a change may be harmless, sometimes it may deserve attention, but you can't notice the difference if you never pause long enough to ask the question. Imagine you normally wake up clear-headed, but suddenly feel unusually confused. That's different from your normal. Imagine you usually walk steadily, but something suddenly feels seriously off. That's different too. Your job is not to sit there and diagnose yourself. Your job is simply to recognize a meaningful change and seek appropriate medical help when needed. That's awareness, not fear, and that is why the first step is called pause. You're not trying to create the perfect morning. You're refusing to begin every day completely on autopilot. You're giving yourself a moment before the noise begins, a moment to arrive before you react, a moment to ask, how am I today compared with my normal? Because once you begin paying attention to your baseline, you may start noticing something else, another change that often happens so gradually that people don't see it until it has already affected their daily life. It doesn't usually begin with one dramatic event. It begins quietly. You start doing a little less, walking a little less, moving a little less, depending on others a little more. And that brings us to the second part of this routine, where one simple question becomes even more powerful. What ability are you trying to keep? What ability are you trying to keep? That's where we continue, because your answer may matter more than any generic advice about how much you should exercise. Maybe it's walking confidently through the grocery store, climbing the stairs in your own home, carrying your groceries, traveling without wondering whether your body can handle the trip, getting out of a chair easily, playing with your grandchildren, or simply continuing to live on your own terms. And this is where the next part of the routine reveals what it was really about. When I said move, I wasn't really talking about exercise, I was talking about independence. Notice tells you what may be changing. Move asks what you can safely do to stay engaged with the abilities you still have. That's the connection between these two steps. Because after 60, movement can mean much more than calories, muscles, or looking better in a mirror. It can be connected to the ordinary things that make life feel like your life. And those abilities are easy to take for granted while they still come easily. So instead of waking up and thinking, I have to exercise because it's good for me, try asking a different question. What do I want to keep being able to do? That question gives movement a reason. If the ability you want to keep is getting up from a chair easily, think about safe movement that supports the strength and mobility involved in everyday life. If walking confidently matters most to you, think about safe walking and balance-focused activity appropriate for your situation. If traveling is what you want to keep doing, your goal may be maintaining the physical ability that helps you stay active and mobile. The point isn't to copy someone else's routine. The point is to connect your movement to the life you want to keep living. And that's a very different feeling. I have to exercise creates resistance. I want to keep doing this creates purpose. One feels like another chore. The other reminds you what the effort is actually for. But there is another reason this matters, and it's something worth noticing honestly. Sometimes, a person's world can gradually become smaller, not through one dramatic decision, but through small activities becoming easier to avoid. A walk feels inconvenient, so it happens less often. A trip feels like too much effort, so staying home becomes easier. Something you once did without thinking slowly becomes something you don't really do anymore. It may happen so gradually that you don't even notice the pattern while it's happening. And that's why I want you to connect the word move with the word notice. Before doing less becomes your new normal, notice what is changing. If you're less active than you used to be, ask why. Is it pain, a balance concern, fear of falling, or has the habit simply faded away over time? You don't have to solve every answer yourself, but paying attention gives you a chance to respond instead of simply drifting along. And your response doesn't need to be dramatic. In your first morning hour, choose movement that is safe and appropriate for you. It could be walking, gentle mobility, strength-focused movement, balance activity, or something else suited to your health and abilities. The goal isn't to train like an athlete, and it isn't to prove that age has no effect on you. The goal is much simpler. Stay engaged with the abilities that matter to your independence. Of course, don't force yourself through severe pain or significant balance problems just to complete a routine. If a health condition affects what movement is appropriate for you, follow professional guidance. Protecting your independence should never mean taking unnecessary risks. But remember the deeper idea here. You're not moving just to say you exercised. You're moving with a reason. You're asking yourself what you value enough to keep practicing for. Maybe tomorrow morning that answer will be, I want to keep walking on my own. Maybe it will be, I want to keep traveling. Maybe it will be something as simple as, I want to keep getting around my home without struggling. Whatever your answer is, let it make the movement personal. And now we've reached an important turning point in this first hour routine. You've paused instead of immediately reacting. You've started noticing your own normal instead of automatically dismissing every change. And you've connected movement to something deeper than exercise, the life and independence you want to keep. But there is one final part of the routine, and this is where we come directly back to the brain. Because you can wake up, pay attention to yourself, and move with purpose. Then spend the rest of the morning receiving information without asking your mind to do anything with it. Watching, listening, scrolling, taking everything in. And that leaves us with one question. Is your brain actually participating, or are you simply filling it? Think about how much information enters your mind before lunchtime. Television, news, conversations, videos, messages, articles, social media. Information is constantly coming in. But here's the question most people rarely stop to ask. What is your brain doing with it? Because receiving information and participating with information are not the same thing. And that's the final step in this first hour routine. Challenge. Don't just feed your brain information. Make it participate. Imagine you watch something interesting in the morning. You could finish it and immediately move on to the next video, the next headline, the next distraction. Or you could stop for a moment and ask yourself, what was the main idea? What did I actually learn? That's participation. You read something, then close the book and try to explain it in your own words. That's participation. You hear an interesting idea, connect it to something you already know, or discuss it with another person. That's participation. You don't need a complicated brain training program. You don't need 6 new hobbies before breakfast. You simply need moments when your mind has to do something with what it receives. Think. Remember. Connect. Solve. Respond. And here's an important difference. Being mentally busy is not always the same as being mentally engaged. You can watch 5 programs and remember almost nothing. You can scroll through 50 headlines and never form a single thought of your own. You can spend hours surrounded by information while rarely asking your mind to participate. So tomorrow morning, give your brain one small job. Just one. Read something and try to recall the main idea. Listen to something and explain it in your own words. Think about a problem and spend a few minutes working through it before immediately looking for someone else's answer. The activity itself isn't the point. Participation is. And now the 4 parts of this first morning hour come together. Pause, so you arrive before you react. Notice, so you don't automatically dismiss meaningful changes. Move, so you keep practicing the abilities that matter to you. Challenge, so your mind does more than simply receive. That's the routine, but the deeper message is even simpler. The goal isn't to fight aging every morning. You may not control every change that comes with getting older. None of us can. But you can refuse to let aging slowly turn you into a passive observer of your own life. You can still pay attention to how you feel. You can still care about the abilities that give you independence. You can still move in ways that are safe and meaningful for you. You can still stay curious. You can still think, learn, remember, question, and participate. Because getting older doesn't mean you stop being an active participant in your own life. And maybe that's the real danger of autopilot, not simply that time passes, but that little by little, you stop noticing that you're still capable of choosing how you meet the day. So tomorrow morning, don't worry about creating the perfect routine. Don't try to transform your entire life before breakfast. Just refuse to begin the day completely on autopilot. Take a moment to arrive. Pay attention to what is normal for you. Move with a reason connected to the life you want to keep living. And give your mind one reason to participate. That's enough to begin. Your brain doesn't need a perfect morning, but it deserves your attention before you give that attention to everyone and everything else.